For whatever reason, the St. Louis Blues always have this weird way of making things all kind of funky when they take on the Edmonton Oilers. No matter how good either of these teams are, for some reason, St. Louis always ends up being a little bit more pesky than we kind of intended them to. That being said, in the Offer Sheet Bowl, the first meeting of these two teams, since those fated moments earlier in the summer, the Oilers come away with a victory. And here to break it all down, hi, hello, how are you, friendo? I'm Graham Mosimann here on Game Over Edmonton. Very excited to welcome the newest member of the Game Over family to our little post-game show. Ash, hello, friend, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing very well today. I'm having a good day. Obviously, Oilers have had a great game. And I'm ready for my first appearance. I'm ready for the first breakdown. I felt like it was also a pretty good game for that, given, all the emotion, the offer sheet bowl, some nice boos, some nice goals. Felt like it was a pretty engaging game.
Well, and there's always like that kind of intrinsic fear of, oh boy, how's this gonna go? It's my first game. Please don't lose or be terrible. And there, and there was actually enough like good stuff for us to kind of dive into throughout this one. I am really curious and would love to get your thoughts. What are your kind of early opinions on the Oilers this far this season? Just like for your first kind of dive into the show, and then we'll break into the rest of this game specifically after that. So, what are your general thoughts on the Oilers so far?
I think the Oilers, coming off last playoffs, had a bit of an identity issue going in to this season. We're going right from some of the most important hockey games that anyone on this team has probably ever played, save like Corey Perry or something. And then we're going into like October and November regular season hockey. Yeah, the Oilers are going to have a slow start. A lot of teams around the league are having slow starts. Yeah, we're going to have some bad results, but it wasn't that much of a concern to me. The underlying numbers were pretty good. We were seeing some bad shooting percentage, which that'll come back. We saw some injuries, obviously with Arvidsson still out. But I think the trend of this Oilers team is it's up. It's going up. The Oilers are playing well. We've won 5 of the last 6. New players are fitting in very well. Kapanen playing on the second line, new acquisition, new pairings like Nurse and Kulak. I think the Oilers are in a really good place right now.
I'm so excited to see just how well Kasperi Kapanen has fit in since coming over on a waiver pickup. It's very rare that you're like, oh, a waiver pickup. This one will be fun and
Especially for the Oilers, right?
yeah. Because waiver pickups for this team are never they're just not good. They're just it's always the dregs, and it's always like very rarely someone that actually can contribute something the team is missing. And one of the things team was missing was speed up and down the lineup in a couple places. I mean, his hands are still made of stone, but like we'll get there eventually. Wanted to
Yeah.
start off this one though. This is the offer sheet bowl. It's we were looking at this game from the moment that Doug Armstrong sent those. I know some people got mad at it. I still think it was the coolest and funnest thing to happen in the
No,
league.
I love offer
It
sheets. I
rules.
think
They're so
they're,
fun.
they're they're exciting, and yeah, it sucks that it happens to us. But you know what? The sports are sometimes sports are about like terrible things happening to your own team, and it makes for good rivalry. And I mean, you could tell the fans were into it tonight with like booing them every time they touch the puck. I think that's always hilarious whenever you get to boo people. Like it's obviously great, and there were some great like misplays from Broberg. Broberg had some giveaways. One led right to a Connor McDavid goal. Another one led to almost a Leon Draisaitl goal. I mean, Holloway scored too. There's a lot of back and forth there. A lot of like some good emotion. I think that's just exactly what I want out of some little rivalries, especially with the team that they're a Central Division team. They're not a team we have a lot of like I guess like modern history with the Blues. So I don't know. Makes for a good December regular season game.
Yeah, it's nice to have a reason to dislike a team for something, no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
It just makes sports more fun. The I was when all the offer sheets happened, I always kind of got the sense that like, hey, they'll probably match one of them. I thought it would be Broberg just because the defensive kind of holes on the team seemed so big at the
hmm
time. Looking back on it now with some hindsight, I'm still kind of bummed they didn't match Holloway. He's had an awesome season for the Blues. He's kind of blossoming the player that you kind of really hoped he would be here. So I want. What did you kind of think of Dylan Holloway tonight because he, for my money, looked like everything that we kind of saw him really start to blossom to against the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dylan Holloway was the Blues' best player tonight. I mean, obviously he scored that goal. Um, I thought he was in and around the puck. He's always been a hard worker. He's always been someone who hits hard. He always digs right in.
Was taking punches from
And
Connie in the first period.
exactly. And he's also, I think, just his possession numbers have always been excellent, and he was the Blues' best player on that front. His metrics were great.
He's such a good player
He
on the
was,
cycle. He's so
yeah,
good.
he's so good, and he's so good at getting the puck out of the defensive end as well. I thought he was the best St. Louis Blue tonight, and I mean you could see it. You could see it in his game.
It's funny the Oilers, former Oiler, former Oil King kind of curse really started to show its head when Holloway gets his goal, and then Jake Neighbors is able to kind of tip him his in. I know like Jake Neighbors was never an Oiler, was never going to be an Oiler, but like I still like the cute little Oil Kings doing their best. Oh, I think they actually won a couple games this week, which for that team is amazing. Um, Broberg was really interesting to watch tonight because the
Mhm.
booze on him felt a little stronger to me than the
Yeah,
booze on Dylan Holloway. Um, I wonder how much of that goes around to his comments being like, I don't know, they didn't really tell me what to do. The organization was kind of bad to me. His exit felt a little bit more like personal and grumpy, which like I totally understand than Dylan Holloway, who's just like, I don't know, I wanted to stay and they offered
yeah.
me a bunch of money, and what am I supposed to do?
Well, with Holloway was always I felt like the more beloved figure, especially being a forward, being like a gritty forward.
An
He's gonna
Albertan.
he's just right, exactly. Whereas Broberg requested a trade. He was an eighth overall pick that never really panned out. At least here, and I think the main thing, which is why losing Broberg isn't like the biggest loss ever, is he's fourth on the depth chart of left-handed defensemen regardless of whether you think we should keep him, Broberg would play behind Kulak and he would play behind Nurse. And on a roster with those players, there's no place for him, unfortunately. And so that relationship was always going to be more tenuous with him. Whereas Holloway was easily a fan favorite, and especially with our like lack of like scoring wingers and kind of like aggressive wingers, especially with Kane being injured, felt like the team really liked having someone like Holloway around. And I think his absence is kind of felt, especially with this kind of early season shooting percentage slump, where a lot of our wingers, like Zach Hyman's early struggles, or Hopkins' early struggles, or Henrique, or Jeff Skinner, or all these people who haven't really been able to score at the rates that we kind of wanted them to, and we see Holloway succeeding. And maybe we think about that one as like someone who kind of got away. That's at least my take on it. Like I think we probably should have matched Holloway's offer sheet. And then that's why I think, as like a fan, it probably hurts to see him um, move on a little more. So there's probably not as much negative sentiment. Whereas like with Broberg, trade request, all that.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. It's funny. I remember when we drafted Broberg, it was one of those like, oh wow, Ken Holland getting a European defenseman. Whoa, what a
Yeah,
left field move this one is when
yeah,
there was
definitely.
so much like scoring talent available that the Oilers kind of desperately needed at the time with like guys like Trevor Zegras still on the board.
Hmm.
Although looking with the perspective of time, interesting to see how that's all kind of worked out. I don't even know when Zegras is going to be back, but that's just the name that kind of jumps to mind. Um,
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see because the Oilers and Blues still play two more times this year. As we
Hmm.
get closer to the deadline, one thing that I think was talked about. I don't know if it was talked enough, maybe as much as it could have been in Oilers circles when the offer sheets were matched. It was because the whole conversation was on, well, crap, we lost. There goes Holloway and there goes Broberg, and now we need to fill these roster spots. But I don't. Bringing back a second and a third round pick is not an insignificant asset,
No, it
especially
is not.
especially for a team that has rightfully had to send so many draft picks out the door just to kind of try to beef up a little bit every single trade deadline. And I think those are going to be absolutely huge and are going to play a big part in the story of this particular Oilers team, especially going on the trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how the Oilers are trying to accrue cap space with Kane. This team is obviously looking to make a big trade deadline move for what we don't really know yet. Whether that's looking for another right hand defenseman or a scoring winner or a replacement for Pickard. Who's to say right now? But those picks are definitely going to be useful, especially because the Oilers have kind of depleted their picks in trades and whatnot.
Yeah, it's gonna be mega. I want to pick your brain on the Oilers defense and specifically the play of Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard coming up in the second period of
Mhm.
Game Over Edmonton here on the Game Over Network. I'm Graham. That's Ash. Before we dive into the second part of the show, I want to tell you about the kind of flagship podcast that's on our network. It's called Hyperdrive Hockey, where Max, Daphne, and Kev will dive into all like the really kind of super intense like kind of minutia kind of stuff that we can't really do on some of the other shows because we're analyzing like a post-game show, or Game On Hockey is only like a 10-minute show. So Max, Daphne, and Kev can really get in the nitty-gritty of stuff, and I deeply love, just as like a Western Canadian and someone that's most of my whole life I've only lived in like Alberta and with a brief stint in Winnipeg, you don't hear a French Canadian perspective in media, and they bring that in
No,
such a
you never do. Never out here.
and I love especially the fact that like English is their second language, so like words get adjusted and change a little bit and can affect the context and add a whole lot more depth to their show in a different way than you necessarily hear. So they have new episodes coming out on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can watch it on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or subscribe wherever you grab your podcast. You can also grab some merch over at the GameOverNetwork.com. We do have a merch code, by the way, that'll get you a few more extra percent off in time for the holidays. I will tell you more about that coming up after this next segment of the show. Ash, I'm really curious because you and I kind of differ in fanness on this one.
Yeah.
I both love it, the eye test when it's me, and
Hmm.
are bothered by it when it's my coaches. But you get into the numbers and the kind of the very graphical parts of defense and goaltending in a way that like it's just not so much my zone. So I
Hmm.
would love to know what your thoughts were kind of generally on the Oilers defense this evening, because for my money this is probably one of the better performances I think we've seen from this team, especially when you're dealing with a Blues team that's had such a good kind of dead cat bounce that you get with picking up one of the 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 smartest tactical coaches in the league in Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, I think the Oilers defense played a pretty decent game today. I think that there were some. So I think that specifically with Bouchard and Nurse, I thought they had really good games tonight. I thought like Nurse especially this last run
Nurse
tonight.
has been
Some of the
phenomenal the past like
this is
few
straight up the
weeks.
best hockey Nurse has played since his contract year, since that year where he scored like all those points in the North Division.
Damn.
I think Nurse with Kulak is doing great. I think Ekholm and Bouchard is still one of the best like deep pairings in hockey. I think that they do things that no other pair in hockey can do. I think Bouchard makes passes. I think he creates opportunities that very, very few defensemen in this league can do. And Nurse was out there doing those same things that I love to see from Ekholm and Bouchard. I think Nurse was doing those things. I thought Kulak was doing those things. Kulak's having a breakout year, obviously. Thought he's doing amazing. With the other defensemen, I think Stetcher had a great and terrible game. I thought
Stetcher
he
was
had
so
some
weird
great
tonight. He was so
Stetcher had
weird.
some Stetcher on the whole, when he was on the ice, played I think pretty poorly, but he made some great desperation saves. There was one, I think it was Neighbors next to the net, where he was able to deflect a puck that was almost for sure gonna go in,
Oh yeah.
and
He
he
got
made a
a stick
couple
in there
other
like
plays.
right at the last second to pop that one
Right,
away.
and then there was another one. Well, I mean, he scored. It was a great shot. Biddington looked like he already like gave up by the time he shot the puck. It was great, and it gave us like that insurance goal. But he also takes that penalty that leads to the 5-on-3, which gets the Blues their second goal. And on the whole, his numbers tonight were not very very good. When he played with Nurse, like they got outshot a whole lot. Like on it, like in terms of shot attempts, that was plus 12 shot attempts for the Blues. Like it was not very good for Nurse Setcher. Um, And the same goes for when Stetcher and Emberson were out there. Like they were not very good together either. And so it's nice to see Troy Stetcher get a goal. Obviously, first as an Oiler, that's huge, especially after his injury last year. But now that we're playing Kulak on the second pairing with Nurse, I do have a lot of concerns about that third pairing. And that's kind of what I hope to see at a trade deadline, is to see some kind of improvement with either the second right hand pairing for Nurse or for the third pairing if we do continue with Nurse and Kulak. Those are kind of my thoughts on the defense right now. I was just a bit concerned about that third pairing.
Yeah, there's this. The Oilers' defense is so funny. Like if you look at it like a Tetris block or like a Lego brick, you have
Yeah.
this line over awesome, this part in ugh, ugh.
Yeah.
Like you have half of it's great, half of it's a bit of a yikes. Troy Stetcher is so fascinating to me as a player because he kind of feels like like Western Conference Connor Timmins.
Yeah.
Like if you put him in Bakersfield, he'd have a bajillion points and he'd be awesome and he'd be like, looks like it's time to crawl up Troy Stetcher and win a bunch of stuff. But then you actually get to see him play for a little bit. I will preface this next statement with the adamant honesty that I hate Jordan Binnington so goddamn much. I cannot stand him as a human. I think he's a mediocre goalie. And the fact that he's starting for Team Canada, great example of why we're going to come in third in that tournament.
I mean, I think it's very funny that we have the starting goalie for Team Canada, and then we have Stuart Skinner, who very famously not only snubbed from Team Canada, snubbed from the snubbed Team Canada, and he outplayed him. Skinner had a great game, I thought. I thought both of the goals were really difficult for him, and even on the second one, he, like, with a huge screen and deflection, he saw the puck. He had the right idea, but it was a really difficult deflection on a 5-on-3, no less.
Yeah.
I thought Skinner made some great saves to start the game. I think Skinner, like a month ago, probably would have let that one where he's on his offside. I thought that would have gone in, and the Oilers would have been down 1-0, and our morale would have been really bad. And we probably don't get some of the goals, like the Troy Stetcher goal, or the called back Connor Brown goal, stuff like that. And so I thought that Skinner kind of kept us in it when the Blues were better early. I thought the Blues were better early.
I think you're right on that one. The Bennington thing, especially with Troy Stetcher, like he gives a little fake half slap shot, and then just gives up and then lets a wrister go by. So but very up and down night for Jordan, for Troy Stetcher and Jordan Bennington. That guy's just fight someone, you friggin' loser. Just fight someone. Stop it. But with Stuart Skinner, I gotta eat some crow on this one because I was talking with someone on our chat for the last game, who I'm still like not feeling awesome about the Skinner Pickard combo, but like when you're paying $3 million for your goaltenders, like what do you really expect? What do you want? And Skinner he's turning into good Skinner again, which I'm really happy about. It's like he's the Armin Tamzarian Skinner has now been around for a little bit, and now he's going to disappear, hopefully for a while, and we're just going to get good Skinner. Because when Skinner's at his best, I find he has control of where the posts are a lot better, and he gets so much less like frantic and jumpy, and that was always like the clearest thing, especially when you had like Jack Campbell pop in net, is that I don't think he knew where the goal was, and he just kind of swims around in a Vagarian hopes. But when Stu is at a point where you can tell he's like really trusting the defense and trusting the people that are on the ice, he plays a lot more in himself and stops trying to do too much. So like I think a big part of Stuart Skinner's ability lately, I think has been especially with improved play from Darnell Nurse, who again feels like for the first time in forever is starting to use like a lot of his physical tools. Because for me, Darnell Nurse for so long was just like, oh, you're big for big's sake. Like, you're big so you can skate a little faster, you can shoot a puck harder, but you haven't been using your size for as many things as I think we'd like him to. And I think that's been huge upswing in his play since he came, especially since he came back from the little from his game 2 games with after he got hit by Ryan Reeves.
Yeah. No, I think the improvement of Skinner was just bound to happen. I mean, I was talking about this with you and with other people.
Yeah,
Skinner
you have a
last year,
Stuart Skinner graph that I would love
yeah,
to hear more about.
I do. So Stuart Skinner last year, at the start of the year to November 23rd, was the worst goalie in the NHL. Just
Yeah,
like
he was a
year.
fart. He was a
From the
fart.
start of the goalie, from the start of the season this year to the end of November, Stuart Skinner was the worst goalie in the NHL. And then last year, from the end of November to the All-Star break, Stuart Skinner was the best goalie in the NHL. And this year, Stuart Skinner is now starting to play some really, really good hockey. And you know what? I think people can look at Skinner's bad play in October, November, and be like, wow, he's not playing very good, which is true. But I think we forget that Skinner played well enough for the Oilers to win a Stanley Cup. He played some excellent games 4-7.
With the exception of that really brief chunk against Vancouver. Aside from that,
That's true. That's true. That is true. However, the Oilers were able to overcome that. And at the end of the day, in a game 7, he only gave up 2 goals, and the Oilers' offense only scored 1. He played well enough for the Oilers to win a Stanley Cup, and I don't see any reason why he can't do it again. I think people are still like kind of like hyped up from that playoff run, and so we look at some October and November hockey and put a lot of meaning into it. When, let's be real, the Oilers aren't going to come online until after the New Year's break. That's just kind of what
all
it
right.
is.
Okay, you there with your facts. Okay.
My bad.
How dare you bring like a proper history to a friggin' post game show? How dare you? I am. I kind of. We're gonna get to our next segment really quickly. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, things you want to get off your chest, throw it up in the chat. Send it to us on Twitter or Blue Sky. Would love to hear what you thought watching this game, and where you kind of see this team sort of going. We are going to get into a bunch of questions in a very short second or overtime period. But before we get there, I want to tell you about 2 quick little things. One of them, we have a daily podcast. It's called Game On Hockey. It's hosted by me, where I give you basically all the kind of big stories of the NHL and the PWHL. And if something happens in like major, junior, or college, we'll cover that too. It's all in less than 10 minutes. So we do a quick rip around everything to do with hockey in under 10 minutes. It'll be in your feed by most days. I try to get it in there before 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm also a human with a really weird day job, so sometimes hours are strange. And it'll be a little bit later. But every weekday, if you just need like a couple things, some fun facts to keep up to date on what's going on in the sport, you can grab that both on YouTube version, if you want to go find that over the Game Over Network's main YouTube channel. You can also find that wherever fine podcasts are sold. And if you would like to support some of the stuff we do here, we're not only do we have merch, but we are an independent company, and we're just trying to bring in cool people and different voices and different styles of folks to do those shows. If you go to the description of this episode, you'll find our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through something called LaRouche. And LaRouche is a thing that is built specifically for companies based out of Quebec, like our company is. And if we raise $15,000, we end up getting access to a whole pile of other government grants that will actually be able to help this company grow a ton really quickly. So if you want to help us out for that, that would mean the absolute world. I know money's tight for everyone though, so even like a share, a review, even those like little things like us mean the absolute world. And you can throw any ideas for like kind of giveaways or special experiences you'd like to see over on our Discord server, Instagram, or Twitter as well. So Ash, after this game, the Oilers have a nice little stretch of, it's not hockey horror coming up for a bit, but the schedule does start to get much tougher as we go Lightning, Wild, Golden Knights, Panthers, Bruins, and then we get a little break with the San Jose Sharks. with how the team is playing right now, where are you feeling going into this stretch, which could really kind of going into the Christmas break cement where the team ends up, especially in playoff seeding?
Right now, I think the standings are really, really weird. We haven't really seen standings like this in the NHL in a really long
Yeah,
time.
they're especially
Last year,
especially through the wild, like just like the
yeah,
teams can jump up from wild card one to being fully out of the playoffs. I don't remember a time where it's been this close.
yeah, no, in the past, there have been immense separation at this point already, where we already have many teams who are just out of it already, and many teams who are 100% in it. Now, there are 5 point gaps separating 10 teams. It really is like a lot of close hockey being played right now, a lot of games from better teams that are being lost. So I really think that a lot of these playoff spots are anybody's game. But I think in December, right now, these games I think are going to be important for the Oilers. But I think they're important for looking at the players, looking how the system performs, looking at line combinations, looking at the different things that the Oilers are trying right now. With Kapanen and Pokolzin on that second line, seeing how if they continue to produce, seeing how Jeff Skinner works on the third line, seeing how this defensive structure with Nurse and Kulak, see does that continue to pan out. Seeing Hyman and Hopkins get back their game. That's going to be, I think, the important thing for Oilers fans to watch out for. I think the Oilers are still, probably like favorites to come one or two in the division in terms of playoff standing. I'm not too worried. Right now, it's just about having the Oilers figure out their game so we can go into the playoffs and have a better result than last year. I think that's like I think that's like the main focus and kind of how I've been watching the games as a fan.
Well, we're in a really weird spot standings wise. Colorado Avalanche currently out of the playoffs, 2 points behind the Oilers at 30. Edmonton's only 1 point up on the Flames, which is so deeply weird to me, and I'm gonna give Dustin Wolf most of the credit for that one,
Yeah,
because I don't. This Flames team is not. They're aggressively mid, and
yeah,
they're just mid. So Oilers technically tied with the Canucks with two more games played, 3 points back of the Kings, and I mean 7 points back on the Golden Knights. I mean Golden Knights played one more game, but they're Vegas, and Vegas is always awesome. But then you get to the top of the Western Conference, the Oilers are only 4 wins back of Minnesota and Winnipeg, which is just
right.
deeply weird for this part of the season. I'm I wonder how much of this of especially when it comes to like secondary scoring, how much is gonna bank on Jeff Skinner figuring it out. Because like based on the play we've seen for the past like kind of week and a half or so, I am less in the all right. Well, maybe we can just trade Jeff Skinner for parts at this point because there's nothing there. He seems like he's starting in to fit and find his groove. I mean, he's just on Stetcher
Yeah.
goal, being able to kind of jump the puck back up the boards, which is really nice to see. Where are you at with Jeff Skinner right now?
I think Jeff Skinner's kind of in a weird spot. He's brought in to be an elite scorer. Everyone knows his job is to score. He's going to shoot the puck and he's going to score the goals, and that's all he's going to do. He's not a defensive player at all. He is not a system player. He is
No,
there
he's
for
really
his
not.
and for
Not even
scoring
a little bit.
ability. And right now, we know that he's not really in a great position, at least in the lineup, to do that. I think it's kind of well known that his defensive issues are not really well liked by the coaching staff, and so they don't see him as responsible enough to play on that second line. Hell, I mean, a waiver pickup is playing higher up the lineup than our free agent sniper that we
Now,
picked up.
now, how
You
much of
know,
that is also because Victor Arvidsson is made of glass or goo or mashed potatoes or something? Like, I don't know. I
I
have
think
no
part of
idea
that
what's up
is
with that
that.
player.
I mean, we knew Victor Arvidsson was going to be a bit injury prone. Going from day to day to hasn't been seen in a month and is not skating with the team is definitely concerning. That was an issue that we were that like exists when we picked him up. I don't think it's too much cause for concern given the kind of state with Kane and caps and our accrued cap space. I think we'll eventually be fine. It is a bit worrying though. But with Jeff Skinner, I think his game has gotten better in the last, week or so, and I think that, once he kind of fits more into the system, which it's starting like he will, I think we'll get more opportunities at the lineup and we'll start to see him score some more goals. I mean, he's here on a 1-year contract with a no trade clause. He's here to score goals. I think it's bound to come, especially with how low the shooting percentage is for the Oilers. A lot of that stuff is just going to regress to the mean. I mean, look at Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman was kind of in and around it about like halfway through the games played so far, and they just weren't going in, and now they are going in. I think the same is going to happen for Jeff Skinner. I don't think he's like been a terrible player. I think he's just been a bit unlucky, kind of like all the Oilers have.
Yeah, the luck has been brutal this season so far for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to say with Zach Hyman though, now that we're like, oh hey, that's the guy, I remember him. We signed that guy,
Yeah.
and whomever we had at the beginning of the season. I am still just seeing his how much better he was after he came back from his injury break has only cemented, in my opinion, before that. I think for probably this entire season until he actually sat down, that Zach Hyman was playing hurt because he wasn't
Yeah.
doing any of the
No,
things
he
that we
wasn't.
saw him make him be successful, which is so indicative of like a core or like kind of upper lower body injury because there's or even a back injury because there's just so much you can't do. So I did cringe really hard when they showed that replay of Broberg, who I'm still astonished didn't get a penalty on that one. I don't know where the officiating was at this evening. It was
It
weird.
was really light. It was really light. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for something like that to not get called, but I mean, I agree. And then he also took that shot from Bouchard, which was
Oh,
like,
he was down for
a
a
little like,
long time.
yeah, but he got up, he stayed in the play, and there was like more than enough opportunity for him to leave. No, I think Zach Hyman is playing the best hockey of the season, like easy the best hockey of the season that he's played so far. And it's nice to see that Zach Hyman is not the 2 goals in 20 games that he was before he got injured. He is actually a 50 goal scorer,
Yeah,
and he's getting goals like he is.
my
Um,
fantasy team is deeply thankful as someone who missed out on Bouchard and was like, I'll do a Zach Hyman Leon Draisaitl stack. That'll be great. And it was not.
Nah, no, it's and I think especially not just with like Hyman like coming back and definitely playing better, not playing hurt. I think Nuge has also had a pretty good past couple games. Someone else who I also thought started the season off really weak. I think he had a good game today. I thought he had some really nice defensive plays. I thought he was finally like noticeable on the offensive side of the puck, especially on the power play, which is thank God finally a real power play again. Oh my God,
That was
I think
like as a fan, that was one of the like watching the power play for the first chunk of this year. It genuinely felt like the same kind of pit in my stomach sort of feeling was the same one when at the end of the Decade of Darkness, at friggin' at Rexall Place, they announced Victor Foth as the starting goalie, and I would get the
yeah.
same pit in my stomach seeing that the power
Oh
play
my
roll out
God.
because it was so dysfunctional and
It
so
was.
annoyingly predictable for the full first chunk of the season.
It just didn't look like the Oilers power play, and it was crazy because it just reminded me of watching a team with a bad power play, which I hadn't really, my team had never had a bad power play. I mean, what do you mean? They're like the record-breaking Oilers. Of course, their power play is great. What do you mean that they suck and they only do the same thing all the time? But now we're seeing movement. We're seeing Hopkins get into the movement too. We're seeing them finally be able to get Hyman in backdoor. It's just really refreshing to see. I think the power play has taken strides in the past couple games, and I mean you see that they got 2 goals against Columbus. They got a goal tonight, and you know what? They might have got a goal against Vegas if there was a single call in that game.
Yeah, no kidding. I love your point about
Yeah.
the movement because that's when the Oilers' power plays at its absolute peak. Is
Right, and it's
when
something
is
other teams don't do.
well because the start of the season it was why it became so easy to knock things down is because you had Leon is going to stay here and Connor's going to move around and do his thing, but everyone else just kind of stayed, which is not how it is successful when it becomes this weird moving ever spinning Beyblade of death.
Yeah.
It's when it's at its best and it's really fun. So it's nice to see that coming back. It's getting pretty late. The chat's pretty late, so we're probably gonna wrap up the show fairly soon here. But I do want to get into not necessarily like your hot takeiest opinion, but the what
Mhm.
your Oilers opinion that's like been burning a hole in your chest the most this season. I would love to hear about that. As soon as we get through one more final thing that I got to tell you about, and it's all about our apparel. So if you want to support the Game Over Edmonton or the Game Over Network, it is so easy. Oh, Bob Smith in the chat. We're gonna get to that one. We'll spice up some Troy Stetcher talk.
That's a good question.
Whether you want to support the company just because you like it or because you want a sweet, cool toque, we have a full apparel line. It was all designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. So if you pop your way over to GameOverNetwork.com or the link in the description of this episode, you can take a look at all of our stuff. I'm a big fan of the retro skater and the goalie designs because I'm a silly goalie boy, and that makes me very happy. And you can also, and this is mega, using the code GO Holidays, we'll get 15% off all winter products. That includes our toque, that includes hoodies as well. And this will be active until December 25th. And we have a brand new sale that we are planning on dropping on Boxing Day as well. But if you use the code GO Holidays, that's game. Actually, I'm just going to throw it in the chat. Use this code, it's in the chat, for 15% off until the 25th. So go do that. We love merch. Ash, this has been so much fun. I have enjoyed this show so much because I have done so many of these just by myself. It is nice to have another person to bounce off of. So
It's always great. It's always great to have another person to talk with.
it's fun. And before I get into what is your biggest burning kind of Oilers opinion you haven't had a chance to get off your chest yet, I want to take a look at Bob Smith in the chat. Who is Troy Stetcher, and why did he get the best goal of all time for the Edmonton Oilers?
Troy Stetcher is a depth defenseman. He is a right-hand defenseman for the Oilers, and
He is the answer.
depth defenseman.
He is going to fix
And
all of this team's
he had a
woes.
nice little half fake, and Binnington just gave up. He just gave up, and it was pretty sick to watch him already give up by the time the shot was released. Man, I love it when goalies react like that. Oh, boys, it's so nice.
When they do
It's so fun.
when they do that little
Yeah.
the little sad head drop, it also feels better because it is Jordan Binnington, who is just such a goober. And
Mental boom. It really was a mental boom for him.
I want to ask you a quick Troy Stetcher question.
Yeah.
First off, how old do you think he is?
I think he's like 25, right? He's young, but he's not like terribly young, right?
That is a 30-year-old man.
He's 30.
That is a 30-year-old man who started his career. I can't. Holy!
No shot.
I can't believe this. He was Troy Stetcher. So he goes to University of North Dakota. Ends up getting drafted by the Vancouver Canucks. I completely forgot that. He was with the Canucks scoring his first goal against Kari Lettinen, if you remember him.
Yeah, I do remember him. Wow.
He signed a pretty good deal with the Canucks for $4.65 million over 2 years. Wasn't qualified, goes to Detroit, signs a 2-year, $3.4 million deal, then ends up being traded for a 7th-round pick where he hangs out with the Los Angeles Kings. Completely. Oh, did you know that he played for the 2022 series? He played for the Kings against us?
No, I don't remember that. He got 4 points though.
Apparently 2 goals and
He
4
got 2
points.
goals. That's crazy.
Good for Troy. Then ends up in Arizona, goes to Calgary after being traded for Connor Mackey and Brett Ritchie. By the way, if you ever do a crossover stream with Conrad from Game Over Calgary, he's the best. I love him so much. Ask him about Connor Mackey, because that man's head will explode in a beautiful way.
I'll put a pin in that one.
Then he goes back to Arizona to play for their Mullet Arena time before ending up back in Edmonton. What a weird career for a
A weird career.
30-year-old. Huh.
That's
Well,
crazy.
good for Troy Stetcher. I hope he continues to exist.
Me too.
Okay, what's your biggest Oilers like big feeling that you want to get off your chest?
I mean, I could easily say I like Oilers. This is like Oilers' hot take. I think Bouchard is like one of the best defensemen in the league, but that's boring. That's a boring take.
I, I when we were talking about Colton Parayko, clearly a superior player,
Oh wait,
being
my
named
bad.
to the
You're so
Four
right.
Nations face-off.
You're so right.
I mean, big man hit puck. So
Okay. The real hot take is that Evan Bouchard away from McDavid is just a better defenseman than Cale Makar is, especially when he's away from McDavid.
ooh,
Do you see that graphic that NHL Sid posted? Evan
oh,
Bouchard has better numbers away from both McDavid and Draisaitl than Cale Makar does, especially when Cale Makar is away from Nathan McKinnon. Cale Makar away from Nathan McKinnon is not a good defenseman. But Evan Bouchard away from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Matthias Ekholm is still one of the best defensemen in the league. He just makes some mistakes because he's young and he's a puck moving Canadian defenseman.
how is he?
People
What do you mean? How old is he?
puck moving
What are you
Canadian
talking
defenseman.
about?
He's like 24,
No,
25. He actually is young.
that is a 47-year-old man.
You're right. You're right.
What are
He
you
actually
talking
is
about?
47-year-old. Dude, I love how old Evan Bouchard looks. He actually looks so old.
But he looked old the day we drafted him. He looked like
I
he
know.
was 40.
I know.
And Nuge still looks the same.
Nuge looks younger. He gets younger every year.
It's the mustache. It's just a little
It
scruffle
is.
buffle.
It's so great.
Ash, this was so much fun.
It was.
Welcome to the blob of Game Over Edmonton.
Thank you.
Where can people find your stuff?
My name is Ash. My name online is Ash Jubilee. You can find me everywhere at Ash Jubilee on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Twitch, on YouTube. Name is Ash Jubilee. I'm out there.
Heck yeah. I'm Graham Mosimann. You can find my name, Graham Mosimann, anywhere. Honestly, there's so few people with my stupid name. If you just put in Graham Mo, unfortunately, I come up because thanks, Dad. Yeah. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. I'm so close to finally calling it on Twitter. I'm so close.
Yeah, I should, but I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. I have too many people. I have too many things. I have too many conflicting interests. I follow so many different, like wildly different things that have like no connection with each other, and finding them all again on a new social media site is so difficult.
Yeah,
that
your
it's like,
retweet. I was because we just like officially met like today.
yeah,
And I was scrolling through your retweets are hit every level, and it is both a joy and a horror to my ADHD rattled brain to go
yeah, I
through
know.
to go through your feed.
No, my feed goes to everything from like hockey to like esports to like like cubing to like animated shows to like video games to like music and like I'm just all over the place. I you cannot pin me down.
Shut up, Bob. We're not talking about X. We're not calling it X, Bob.
I'll never call it X whenever something like really horrible happens, and then I can say on X, the everything app. It's so great.
So I used to work for a radio station in Calgary called X92.9, and like
Yeah.
it was genuinely some of like the funnest parts of my career. And so like amongst all my family, like, oh yeah, like back when I was at X or when I worked there, I talked about X. And now having it have to deal with it is now the Elon Musk horror app hurts my soul.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, Ash, this is an absolute blast. Welcome to the Game Over Network family. I'm so excited to have you as a part of our silly little blob.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I think we'll call it there for the show today. It would mean the absolute world if you gave this a like or send it to a friend. If you would like to see Oilers coverage that is something so we hope slightly different than the same four companies that have been doing Oilers post-game coverage since the beginning of time. It would mean the world if you dropped like a like or subscribe or review or something like that. It really would. So have
Yeah.
yourself a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we will talk soon here on the Game Over Network and Game
Alrighty.
Over
Everyone
Edmonton.
have a good night.